Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. The spot that I'm at right now, I should have been at 2 hours and 15 minutes ago because my flight is delayed 2 hours and 15 minutes. Come with me today as I fly on a Boeing 737-800 on Delta from LaGuardia to West Palm Beach. Today I'm expecting a departure off of runway 13 and I'm looking out for runway 22 arrivals right now. Check out my recent runway 22 videos where my flights land as well as depart on runway 22. A runway 22 departure is a rare occurrence. Now, the weather in New York City is actually pretty good today. The problem is Florida, and it has nothing to do with my flight going to Florida. My flight just came from Florida, and there is bad weather. The aircraft departed from the Fort Myers Airport RSW with a significant delay because of weather. On the ride in, I'm enjoying the runway 13 departure views. I'll be up there later, so it's always nice to see where you'll be from a ground perspective. Let's go into the magnificent Terminal C. Okay, this is my usual spot before all of my flights before heading on over to TSA. Let's go upstairs and go through TSA now. Let's say goodbye to this grand space and take the escalator up to another level for security. I'll see you on the other side. That's my flight, Delta 2460, delayed from 3:05 to 5:20 p.m. And check out those other delayed or canceled flights. What do they all have in common? They're headed to Florida. I've seen a pattern with the flights to Florida today. A lot of them are delayed or even canceled. Just so you know, this video was filmed before the old D terminal was demolished. What you see on the right is no longer there, but you can catch the SkyTeam 737 flying around the country. I recently got to fly on one, but my main focus is to catch the runway 13 departures. They're all climbing straight out on the tennis climb. More on that later. Runway 22 is the arrival runway, and this is the plane I'll be taking to PBI. Right before it lands, the tower issued an American 737 takeoff clearance to take off from the intersecting runway 13. This plane just flew up the Hudson River west of LaGuardia so that planes departing on runway 13 can occupy LaGuardia's eastern airspace. It later turned right over the Bronx to get to where it is now so it can land on the 7,000-foot-long runway 22. As soon as the plane lands and crosses the runway 13 intersection, another plane takes off. We'll see this up close later on since my seat is on the right side of the plane. My seat is going to be right in front of the engine of this 24-year-old Boeing 737-800, which has flown for Delta its entire career. I'm going to head on over to 88 Alpha now. Gate 88 Alpha is in the 80s concourse, which is a work of art, but it doesn't solve a 2-hour delay. This is, however, a much improved space to spend the time here compared to what used to be here. And alas, here's the 737 up close. Okay, behind me is the 737 that's going to take us down to PBI. Today my seat is in the Comfort Plus cabin, but what's most important is that I have a window, and I do. And what's also important is that you have a good wallet with you when you travel. So here's a message from the sponsor of this video. If you haven't heard about Extra, you're missing out. Because it's the #1 rated smart wallet in the world, I personally own a variety of Extra products, like this Extra Card Holder Pro that can hold cards and cash and even blocks RFID to prevent wireless theft. I even have an Extra card plate to increase storage space. This is one of my older wallets, and it's in great shape. They even have wallets that glow in the dark. I never go anywhere without my Extra wallets. And if you're interested in Extra Wallet, you can get additional savings on top of the already existing savings by clicking on the link in the description below and entering code MASELLA. That's MASELLA. Now back to today's video. We may be going to West Palm Beach, but we'll be sharing the airspace with many airplanes. From my gate, I looked out to the east and saw a plane approaching runway 22 left at JFK Airport. For this reason, we'll turn left after takeoff. I can't wait to share real air traffic communications with you, and the great news right now is that it's time for us to board this plane. All right, I finally made it on board the 737-800 to PBI. Let's go. And here's the view from my window on the right side of the plane. Today we will not be flying in a straight line like the map on the IFE displays on the seat back. While there are many things that are happening on the ground, I'm focused on what's to come as I glance at a runway 13 departure. It's now time for the captain to address us with great information about the weather.
Of course, the big topic of discussion is the weather down there. It's been watching that for a few days now, and just been kind of analyzing it most of the day because I've been waiting just as long as you folks have for this to open up. It looks like there's a line of weather that's right, just touching Palm Beach right now, and it's moving ever so slowly, about 10 miles per hour to the south. With our flight time to the south. So it should just be right out of our way right when we get there. So I'm kind of timing that just to get down there just as that little window opens up so we can get in there safely. But it should be a pretty good flight, maybe just a little choppy as, of course, as we approach Florida. It's going to get bumpier and bumpier and bumpier. And then the big bump at the end because I'm landing the aircraft, so that'll be your indication that we are here. 2 hours and 14 minutes down there. I'll be on the PA and just give you any information that's pertinent to you. But it should go pretty smoothly all the way down there. We'll get you in there. Thank you for your patience, just kind of waiting in the terminal. I know that's uncomfortable, but thank you for that. This really is probably the best time to get in there today. So thank you guys. We'll get back to you if I give you any information that I have. But for now, we are ready to go. As soon as we get everybody in their seats, we'll go. Thank you.
As we push back onto the ramp, I can't help but think about that great announcement from the captain. This is how announcements should be, detailed and providing a reason for understanding the delay. It's all done in the name of safety, of course, and I'm confident we'll arrive with no problems at all. Safety starts right here on the ramp at LaGuardia as the tug pushes us to a position where we can safely start our engines, and before we get there are multiple eyes on us, ensuring we maintain a safe distance from anyone or anything on the ramp. When the tug was removed and the engine started, I took a glance at the windsock at the departure end of runway 13 and verified that we will indeed have a headwind, which is what we should have on takeoff. The direction the wind is coming from favors runway 22 and 13 this afternoon. That's the optimal configuration for LaGuardia Airport. And there goes another departure. We're ready to start our taxi to runway 13.
And ground out 2460, spot 17 Alpha, ready to taxi with Yankee.
We're at spot 17 Alpha, have the latest airport information called Yankee, and are ready to taxi. I missed much of the response, but the controller had us taxi via Bravo and Papa.
Bravo, Papa, to the P2.
That was part of the transmission. After leaving the ramp, all we need to do is turn left on taxiway Bravo, which becomes Papa, and hold short of runway 22. This is a very direct taxi route to the runway, and we're going to get there very, very swiftly, despite our 2-hour delay today. We happen to be departing at a time when there is lower than normal departure demand, so despite having a seat on the right side of the plane with an excellent view of runway 13, I didn't get to see any departures up close at this point. Instead, my focus was out over the water to see the runway 22 arrivals, which will be crossing ahead of us. Carefully, the ground controller, which has been replaced by a new controller, finds the right moment to cross us on runway 22 when there's no plane on final approach.
South 2460, cross runway 22 at Papa, at the runway, follow southwest.
Cross 22 Papa, and after the runway, follow southwest, South 2460.
We can now cross runway 22 and follow Southwest Airlines to the runway, but we can't enter the runway until we're told to do so, so we'll switch over to the tower frequency. And now there are a few planes ahead of us, and the tower will issue each one clearance for takeoff once a plane lands on runway 22. The first is Jazz, which will get takeoff clearance as Spirit lands. Then the next plane is told to line up.
Jazz 995, wind 190 at 15, gust 19, traffic on a 2-mile final for runway 22, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Just takeoff runway 13, Jazz 995.
And here's that plane taking off on the 7,000-foot-long runway 13. Now United is about to land, so SkyWest has issued takeoff clearance.
SkyWest 5399, wind 190 at 16, traffic on a 3-mile final, runway 22, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 13, 5399.
And here's SkyWest, painted in United's colors, taking off. Now we have to wait for a corporate jet to land on runway 22, and as soon as that plane lands, another Jazz flight is issued takeoff clearance.
Jazz 641, wind 190 at 14, gust 19, traffic on a 2.5-mile final, runway 22, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, Jazz 641, thanks.
After Jazz takes off, we wait for a Delta CRJ 900 to land on runway 22, and as soon as that happens, the Southwest plane in front of us is issued takeoff clearance, and we're told to line up and wait on runway 13.
Southwest 3480, wind 190 at 15, gust 19, traffic on a 3-mile final, runway 22, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 13, Southwest 3480.
Delta 2460, LaGuardia Tower, runway 19, and wait, traffic will land 22.
Flight away 13 Delta 2460.
Okay, the Southwest is now rolling ahead of us, and the runway is ours now. I'm happy to be seated on the side of the airplane as we turn the corner, as I'll get a nice view down the runway, especially since my seat is toward the front of the plane. Before the tower issues us takeoff clearance, two things need to happen. The Southwest 737 in front of us needs to lift off, and the critical part of the airport, the intersection of our runway and runway 22, needs to be clear with no arrival on short final that would conflict with us passing through the intersection. If a plane is within a mile from runway 22, takeoff clearance will not be issued, and that's exactly what's happening right now. There's a plane that's about to land on runway 22, and we're just waiting for it to land so the tower can issue us takeoff clearance. Let's wait. The runway 22 arrival has just landed and is passing in front of us, so it's time for us to be issued takeoff clearance.
Delta 2460, pressure wind 190 at 15.20, traffic on a 2 mile final, emergency, runway 13, clip takeoff.
Clip takeoff 13 Delta 2460.
Delta 2460, continue departure today.
Departure Delta 2460, see ya.
The tower controller hands us off to the departure controller as we begin a left turn to 50 degrees on the tennis climb. Let's check in with the TRACON.
Departure Delta 2460 to 1.4, climb at 5,000.
Delta 2460, radar contact, maintain 8,000.
Maintain 8,000 now, Delta 2460.
As we view Flushing Meadows Corona Park below, the left turn we make was published, so there was no need for the controller to tell us to turn. We're told to climb 3,000 feet higher than the published altitude of 5,000 feet to 8,000 feet. Way in the distance before the ocean is Kennedy Airport. We're avoiding JFK in this turn, but we're turning to the northeast. That's the complete opposite direction of flight that we need to go in. So even though we're flying a published procedure, the controller has to soon start working us around to the south. That will be accomplished via left turns that will put us north of the airport. Even though we haven't completed our turn to 50 degrees, the controller is ready for us to head west to 270 degrees.
Delta 2460, turn left wing 270.
Left wing 270, Delta 2460.
With this command, we never got to level the wings, so basically this is becoming a giant turn to the left from runway heading at around 130 degrees to 270 degrees. We're in airspace east of LaGuardia looking at Queens and Nassau County. Arrivals to LaGuardia coming from the south that need to land on runway 22 will pass by the west side of LaGuardia since flights like ours are occupying the eastern airspace. There's a reason for where we are right now. Now, make sure you check out the video I posted on August 24th, 2024, where my flight takes off on runway 22 when runway 22 was also the departure runway. From here, you'll notice we're in a very similar position after takeoff from runway 22. Runway 22 departures turn left after takeoff like us to allow arrivals from the south to fly west of LaGuardia, then turn right around the Bronx to land on runway 22. It's the same concept today. The only difference is that we're slightly higher since we took off to the east rather to the south and then turning to the east. As we finally complete the turn to 270 degrees while looking at the Bronx, the controller clears us to 12,000 feet.
Delta 2460, maintain 12,000.
Climb 12,000, Delta 2460.
We are well above the runway 22 final approach course, and looking carefully below, I saw a plane on final approach around the interchange of 95, 278, and 678. If I had a seat on the left side of the plane, I'd be able to see LaGuardia and watch planes land on runway 22 and depart on runway 13. Speaking of that runway configuration, that's the most efficient configuration, since the intersection of the two runways is near the beginning of both runways, allowing the tower to issue planes takeoff clearance just as a plane touches down, and once they start their takeoff roll, it's only a matter of seconds before they reach the intersection. But despite that, let's not forget that we're on a flight that's delayed over 2 hours. This is a super efficient day, but our delay had nothing to do with LaGuardia this time around. It's all because this plane came from stormy Fort Myers. As we wait for the next turn to the left to head toward Florida, we see the western half of the Bronx and upper Manhattan can be seen between the Hudson and Harlem rivers. Since we're headed right toward the middle of Manhattan, passengers on the left side can see the lower part of Manhattan. It's one of those limited Manhattan view days. Before we physically reach Manhattan, we're ready to receive our next turn, which will point us toward Florida.
Delta 2460, turn left heading 230.
Left heading 230, Delta 2460.
The 230-degree heading will put us right down the middle of Manhattan. By the way, I normally choose seats based upon anticipated views, but due to a late booking, only seats on the right side were available, but I'm surely making the most of it. Manhattan views today are limited to the upper or lower parts for passengers, but I'm taking in this view of New Jersey on the other side of the Hudson River. We're still climbing to 12,000 feet, which keeps us 1,000 feet below arrivals from the west headed to JFK, and we're about to leave the airspace of what's known as the first departure controller, and we're going to get handed off to a second departure controller who handles airspace up to 17,000 feet before it reaches the high-altitude center airspace.
2460, contact 12475.
12475, Delta 2460.
Let's check in with the next controller, who's located in the same building as the controller that we just heard.
New York, Delta 2460, 10.4, climbing 12,000.
Delta 2460, make departure, Roger.
We're only told Roger by the controller as we near 12,000 feet. We'll just keep doing what we're doing on this 230-degree heading. Now, this 230-degree heading really wasn't issued to point us toward Florida, which it does, but rather toward our first airspace departure fix, which is located in New Jersey. The goal of the departure controllers is to disperse aircraft in various directions to be set up to head toward their departure fix, which can be in any direction. Ours is white, which is typically used on my flights to Florida since it's located in Ocean County, New Jersey, which is along a nearly straight-line path from New York City to Florida. We'll just have to wait for the controller to tell us to proceed to white, and then we can proceed on course. Also, as I mentioned, the controller in this area handles planes up to 17,000 feet, so we'll be getting a clearance up to that altitude as well. Let's speed up to that point.
Delta 2460, direct white, maintain 17,000.
Direct white, maintain 17,000, Delta 2460.
Okay, we can now head on down to white and climb to 17,000 feet. Once we reach white, we can proceed along our prescribed route all the way down to the arrival procedure to West Palm Beach Airport. I'll end air traffic control for now until we get to South Florida. For now, air traffic controllers and high-altitude air route traffic control centers will guide us and monitor us along the way. The time is coming to get handed off to the New York Center located in Ronkonkoma, New York.
Delta 2460, New York Center, 118.97.
1897, Delta 2460, see you.
We've made significant progress, we've started our descent, and are now flying the Clement 2 arrival to PBI Airport.
Palm Beach Press, Delta 2460s out of 11.3 descending via the Clement 2 with Foxtrot.
Delta 2460, expect runway 28 right.
Runway 28 right, Delta 2460. .com 3660 Palm Beach, expect runway 28 right. System Jet 7 Juliet Alpha, descend and maintain 1,500, advise airport. 1,500 and will advise airport for 7 Juliet Alpha.
Approach Silver Wings 99, level 5,000,
Silver Wings 99 Palm Beach, expect runway 28 right.
28 right.
Earlier, after Wilmington, North Carolina, we flew a water route nearly straight toward West Palm Beach, and we started to follow an arrival procedure called the Clement to Arrival, which brings us south from the north. This gives us great views of the Florida coast during a great time of the day to land. In some ways, I'm grateful for the delay due to the nice lighting conditions. As we get closer and closer to the shoreline, I'm able to identify places. That's Fort Pierce down there. Now, this is a very unique arrival procedure, and different routes are taken based upon the landing runway. Today, we'll be landing on runway 28 right because the wind is coming from the east, although it will be calm by the time we touch down. When you approach an airport like LaGuardia, the approach controller assigns heading after heading after heading to guide you toward the runway, but this arrival procedure actually has the turns built in for you to follow based upon the landing runway. Runway 28 right will consist of a landing to the west. We're currently heading south-southwest. Instead of just turning right to the west to land on the runway, as we approach the Palm Beach area, we'll turn to the left to 99 degrees in the opposite direction of landing. This forms a right downwind leg for us. How far out we go depends on how busy the approach is. And when we turn our right base leg, well, that will be issued by the controller. That's the first time the controller will issue a turn to us. We'll then get a second turn issued by the controller, then head toward the runway, then call the tower and land. It's a very streamlined procedure and allows aircraft to precisely follow each other until they need to be lined up at the runway when a human intervenes. Now, this part is deceiving if you're expecting to land soon. The fact is that we've come close to the shoreline and the airport is just ahead of us and to the right, so it would be logical to just make a right-hand turn toward the runway and land. It's clear that we're in a built-up area with many buildings lining the shore, a clear indication that we're about to land, but as I mentioned, the published arrival procedure has us turn away from all of this, so we line up with the runway further out over the Atlantic Ocean. We've been on this approach control frequency since 11,300 feet, and although you can hear the controller talk to other pilots, there haven't been any transmissions to us at all. We just follow the arrival procedure as published. This is unheard of in the New York area at this low altitude. There's just too much traffic to manage, and a controller needs to do the work manually. Not here. We're getting close. We're getting real close. And if I look ahead, I can actually see our destination airport, but we can't land yet. Instead, we continue south and enjoy a magnificent view of Palm Beach shores with the sun setting in the distance. I'm loving this view and grateful for our delay from LaGuardia. And that weather the caption mentioned down in Florida, well, it just isn't here. Here's a zoom shot of the airport just behind the tall buildings of Palm Beach, and it's at this point where we start a turn from 177 degrees to 99 degrees as published on the Clement to Arrival. Again, this is without the command from the controller, but the controller does need to ensure that we're sequenced into the pattern, so he's keeping a close eye on us. The published procedure brings us down to 4,000 feet, so the controller will now issue clearance to 3,000 feet.
Delta 2460, descend and maintain 3,000.
And maintain 3,000 Delta 2460.
If you're an astute passenger sitting on the right-hand side of the airplane, you just might be wondering why the aircraft is turning left away from the airport, but it's all about following processes and procedures to get us safely into the pattern to PBI. We're on the downwind leg and traffic is light to PBI, so we won't be on this heading for very long. The controller is waiting for the right moment to turn us to a right base leg to the south, and that's about to happen right now.
Delta 2460, turn right heading 190.
Riding 190 Delta 2460.
So it's back to the south again for us, but this time a little further away from the shore than a few moments ago. As we continue the turn, the controller issues clearance to a lower altitude.
Delta 2460, descend and maintain 1,500.
Maintain 1,500 Delta 2460.
The next thing that needs to happen is a right turn to intercept the final approach course at an appropriate angle to turn right onto it. A 250-degree turn will be issued by the controller to intercept the runway's localizer, but with the airport in sight, the controller will clear us for a visual approach to runway 28 right, maintaining 170 knots until 5 miles out.
Delta 2460, turn right heading 250, join the localizer, advise airport.
Right heading 250, join the localizer, and we have the airfield site Delta 2460.
Delta 2460, clear visual approach, runway 28 right, 170 knots, still 5 mile final, contact tower 19.1.
Clear for visual 28 right, 170 to a 5 mile final over to tower 19.1 Delta 2460.
At this point, all we need to do is turn right to join the straightened approach course and check in with the control tower at the airport for clearance to land.
Tower 2460 visual 28 right.
2460, roger.
We're not yet clear to land because there'll be departing and arriving traffic ahead of us on our runway.
Palm Beach Tower, good evening. November 669 Charlie is ready for departure and takeoff.
Roger. American 9790, runway 28 right, clear for takeoff, no delay, traffic's 2 miles.
No delay, takeoff 28 right, American 97.
.com 3660, runway 28 right, clear to land.
Clear to land 38 right. All right, clear to land 28 right, .com 3660.
There's an American Airlines flight taking off on the runway, and ahead of us, a corporate jet using a .com call sign ahead of us is about to land behind American, but it gets more complex. November 9 Charlie is holding short of the runway and will enter the runway and take off before we land. So even though we're close in, there will be 2 departures and 1 arrival ahead of us. The American was asked to take off without any delay because of all the action behind him and has sped down the runway to make way for departures and arrivals.
American 9790, contact departure.
Approaching departure, American 9790.
The .com plane has just landed, and November 9 Charlie, which was holding short, is now being asked to line up and wait ahead of us.
We're 9 Charlie, runway 28 right, line up and wait, traffic 6 miles.
Line up and wait, 28 right, Charlie.
We're getting closer to the airport, and soon we'll be over the barrier island, then over the mainland before we touch down. The .com flight has slowed down and is asked to vacate the runway to the left toward the FBOs.
.com 3660, ready park?
Yeah.
Okay, the left on 32 is fine, and left on Lima, contact ground.
Left on 32, left on Lima.
Now that the .com is clear of the runway, November 9 Charlie is cleared for takeoff.
Parker 9 Charlie, runway 28 right, clear for takeoff.
28 right, clear for takeoff, Charlie.
This clears the way for us so we can get landing clearance.
Delta 2460, the wind's calm, runway 28 right, clear to land.
Clear to land 28 right, Delta 2460.
Wow, that was tight, and there's a lot going on in front of us while we're close in. Things slowed down a lot after this, and there were no more departures. The controller did an excellent job, and she's now off duty during this small period where there's no need for any more communications. As we get close to the airport, the next plane behind us calls the tower. Silver Airways, using the call sign Silver Wings, and the new controller tells 9 Charlie to contact departure, and then issues Silver Wings clearance to land.
Tower Silver Wings 99, visual 28 right.
Hawker 9 Charlie, contact departure. Today. Silverwings 99, Palm Beach Tower, runway 28 right, clear to land, wind 0403.
Clear to land 28 right, Silverwings 99.
Silver is cleared to land right away as there is no departure squeezed in behind us in that flight, and we're already on the ground. We're looking at the airline terminal. That's where this flight will terminate in just a few moments, around 2 hours and 30 minutes late, thus delaying this aircraft's next flight back, which will be to New York City, all because of weather in Fort Myers. That's the control tower. At 248 feet tall, the controllers on the tower frequency saw us on radar, and now we're visible on the ground by looking out the window. There are 3 runways total here at PBI, and we're on the longest one, offering plenty of surface area for this 737-800 to decelerate. As we slow down, the controller keeps an eye on us out the window and tells us to turn right and to contact ground control.
Delta 2460, turn right, contact ground point under.
We'll be right here, Charlie 4 over ground point under, Delta 2460.
We're able to vacate the runway on taxiway Charlie 4, and since we passed the airline terminal and landing roll, we'll make a U-turn on taxiway Charlie. You can see the Silverways aircraft on final approach about to land behind us. Let's check in with ground control for taxi instructions to the terminal.
Ground Delta 2460, clear 28 right, Charlie 4, taxi into Charlie 3.
Delta 2460, ground taxi on Charlie 7 cross, runway 04.
Charlie 7 cross 14, Delta 2460.
We let the controller know that our gate will be Charlie 3, not to be confused with taxiway Charlie 3, which is next to taxiway Charlie 4. We're told to take taxiways Charlie and Charlie 7 to get there, and we can cross runway 14 along the way. We already crossed runway 14 in the opposite direction when we were on the landing roll. Well, the flight is coming to a close, and at the last minute, we got a gate change to Charlie 1. There were no bumps at all on this flight. The weather really didn't seem to affect this flight at all, and the only issue was the delay out of LaGuardia, which was caused by this plane's previous flight from Fort Myers, but it was worth it for that sunset approach. I'll be back with many more videos like this, so make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. In the meantime, check out discounted extra products using the link below. As I deplaned, I had to make a special thank you to the captain. Thank you for your very good announcements, keeping us informed. All right, great flight. Well, the video ends here. I'm so happy that this delayed flight was a success. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.